welcome back to the show Science in History. Today's special guest is Gregor Mendel, the father of the modern genetics.
Good morning, Miss Aswara.
Good morning, Mr. Mendel. How was your time travel?
It was a little dizzy, but it was fine. Thank you for a question.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about you, Mr. Mendel.
Well, what can I say? I was born in Austria in 1822. When I was young, I joined to the Augustinian order and at the St. Thomas Monastery where I started to become a monk. And then I received the name of Gregor Mendel. Oh well, the Gregor, basically. And also my studies in the monastery helped me to develop the basic principles of genetic heredity.
Wow, can you tell us about how did you find those principles?
Well, as I said before, I used two types of plants of the same species, which was if I remember well, it was the Pisum sativum. One with only recessive traits and the other one with only dominant traits. And when I crossed these plants, I could observe two characteristics that helped me to develop the two of the principles that I used to study the genetics.
And what did you observe from that results?
Well, as I said before, the crossing of the plants helped me to observe how the traits were passed from the parents to the offspring. And then I saw two of the characteristics that helped me to develop the two laws that applied in my studies, which were first the law of the segregation, in which I talked about how the dominant and recessive traits are randomly passed from the parents to the offspring, and the second law, which was if I remember, in the law of independent assortment, where it talks about how traits are independently of traits passed from parents to the offspring. In addition to this, I designed a kind of graph in which we can observe how the traits are passed from the parents to the offspring, which I call it the Punnett square.
Could you please explain us to us the Punnett square?
Well,
the Punnett square is a way in which we can organize the genetic process in form of a probability sample space, like in a roll of dice, and in each box of the same square we can put the union of the genotypes. For example, in the first row we can obtain the following combinations: XX and XY, because the cross is gonna be with the X and X and the X and the Y, along as if we go in the other row, the crosses YX and YY will give the result of XY and YY. And as you can see, we also can obtain an example of dominance, where the X will develop its phenotype and the recessive Y will develop its phenotype in the absence of the X heterozygotes.
Wow, that's very complex, but I understand. Your name as the father of modern genetics is very well earned, Mr. Mendel.
well, thank you for the invitation to this interview.
Thank you to you, Mr. Mendel. We are hoping you are having a nice day. We leave. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the show Science in... Wow, can you tell us a little bit about how you found...
Kinds of plants. Where they are dominant